The text arrived at 9:47 p.m. on a Thursday. You need to come here, now. Pauline's message included an address I didn't recognize, some townhouse in the Marina district. No context, no explanation, just one sentence with a period that sounded like thunder. I was watching a documentary about financial fraud when my phone lit up. Jessica had mentioned something about a work event earlier that week, some client party she couldn't miss. She'd kissed my cheek that morning, told me not to wait up, and walked out wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Red, expensive, the kind of dress that doesn't come home early. The address was 20 minutes away. I took 15. When I arrived, music leaked through the walls of a narrow 3-story building squeezed between 2 restaurants. The bass was aggressive, pulsing like a headache. People clustered on the sidewalk smoking, laughing, holding clear plastic cups filled with something that caught the streetlight. None of them looked at me as I pushed past. Inside, the air was thick with cologne and perfume and something else. That particular electricity that happens when strangers pretend they're closer than they are. Bodies pressed together in a living room that wasn't built for this many people. I didn't know anyone. Not a single face registered recognition. Then I saw Pauline near the kitchen doorway. She looked pale, her expression somewhere between guilty and terrified. "Michael," she said, grabbing my arm. "I didn't know if I should." "Where is she?" Pauline pointed toward the center of the room where the furniture had been pushed against the walls to create a makeshift dance floor. The overhead lights were off, replaced by colored bulbs that turned everyone into shadows and suggestions. And there, in the middle of it all, was Jessica. She was dancing. Not the kind of dancing you do at weddings or office parties. This was something else. Her eyes were closed, head tilted back, arms raised above her head, while some man I'd never seen before pressed against her back, his hands on her waist, moving with her like they'd practiced this routine 100 times. The song was loud and meaningless, all repetitive beats and auto-tuned vocals. But to me, standing there in the doorway with Pauline's hand still on my arm, it sounded like the last few bars of something ending. I don't know how long I stood there. Maybe 30 seconds, maybe 3 minutes. Time does strange things when you're watching your wife dance with another man at a party you didn't know existed. Then someone bumped into the speaker system. The music cut out mid-beat, replaced by startled laughter and confused voices. In that sudden silence, heads turned. Jessica's eyes opened. She saw me. For one perfect moment, her face went completely blank. Not guilty, not sorry, just empty, like she was processing a malfunction in her programming. Then something flickered, maybe calculation, maybe panic, and she stepped away from the man behind her. "Michael," she said. Her voice carried across the room because everyone had stopped talking. 30, maybe 40 people were staring at us. "What are you doing here?" That was the question she asked. Not "I can explain" or "this isn't what it looks like" or even "I'm sorry." She asked what I was doing there, as if I'd violated some rule by showing up at a party where my wife was grinding against a stranger. "Pauline texted me," I said. My voice sounded normal, calm, almost pleasant. Seemed urgent. Jessica's eyes cut to Pauline, who flinched. The man behind Jessica, tall, angular jaw, expensive watch catching the light, put his hand on her shoulder like he had a right to touch her. Like he'd earned that privilege. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Jessica said, smoothing her dress. "This is Derek. He's a client. We were just dancing," I finished. "I can see that." Someone in the back of the room laughed nervously. The sound broke whatever spell had been holding everyone still, and conversation started up again, quieter now, people pretending they weren't watching while absolutely watching. Derek, because of course his name was Derek, smiled at me. It was the kind of smile that made me understand exactly what was happening here. This wasn't new. This wasn't a mistake. This was routine. "You must be the husband," he said, extending his hand. Jessica's told me a lot about you. I looked at his hand, looked at Jessica, looked back at his hand. I'm sure she has, I said, not taking it. The smile faltered. Good. Let it. Jessica stepped between us, her own smile now plastered on like a mask. Michael, you're making a scene. This is a professional event. Professional, I repeated. Right, because all professional events involve your tongue in someone's ear. Her face hardened. We're not doing this here. No, I agreed. We're not. I turned and walked out. Behind me, I heard Jessica saying something to the crowd, her voice bright and apologetic, already spinning the narrative. Probably telling them I was stressed from work, or jealous, or controlling. Whatever story would make her the victim. Pauline caught up with me on the sidewalk. Michael, I'm so sorry. I didn't know if I should tell you, but I thought... You did the right thing, I said. Thank you. She looked relieved, then guilty again. I feel like I just blew up your life. You didn't blow up anything. You just turned on the lights. I drove home in silence. No radio, no thoughts, just the white noise of tires on asphalt and the occasional red light bleeding through the windshield. When I got home, I sat in the car for 20 minutes, staring at our apartment building. 4th floor, corner unit, 2 bedrooms, and a view of nothing interesting. We'd lived there for 3 years. I'd painted the kitchen. Jessica had picked out the couch. We had a coffee maker that cost too much and dish towels from our wedding registry. Normal. Everything looked so impossibly normal. My phone buzzed, a text from Jessica. I'm staying at Pauline's tonight. We'll talk tomorrow. I read it 3 times before responding. No, you're staying with Derek. Let's at least be honest. She didn't reply. I went upstairs, poured myself a drink I didn't want, and sat on the couch we'd bought together. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that makes you hear your own heartbeat. And that's when I realized something. I wasn't crying. I wasn't angry. I wasn't anything. I was thinking. Jessica assumed I'd fall apart. Derek assumed I was irrelevant. They both assumed I'd react like a character in whatever story they'd written for themselves, predictable, emotional, easy to dismiss. They assumed wrong. I set my glass down and opened my laptop. Jessica's email was still logged in from when she'd borrowed my computer last week. She never logged out of anything. Too confident. Too careless. I didn't read her messages. Not yet. That would be evidence gathering, and I wasn't ready for that. But I looked at the login history, the calendar appointments, the breadcrumbs she'd left because she never imagined anyone would look. 3 weeks ago, there was a calendar entry, DR, Marina District, 9 p.m. 2 weeks before that, drinks with Dr. Derek. Going back further, the entries multiplied. Some had locations. Some were just blocked time with no details. A pattern emerged, clear as daylight once you knew to look for it. This had been going on for months, maybe longer. I closed the laptop and leaned back on the couch. The ceiling had a water stain I'd been meaning to fix. A small thing. Unimportant. Everything seemed unimportant now, except one simple truth. Jessica thought I was harmless. Derek thought I was irrelevant. They'd made me invisible. That was their mistake. Invisible people see everything. I didn't confront Jessica when she came home the next morning. She walked through the door at 7:15 a.m., still wearing the red dress but carrying her heels. Her makeup was smudged, hair tangled. She looked like someone who'd spent the night doing exactly what I knew she'd spent the night doing. I was sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee, reading the newspaper like it was any other Friday morning. "We need to talk," she said. "About what?" I turned the page. An article about pension fund mismanagement. Fascinating stuff. She set her purse down, irritation flickering across her face. "Michael, don't do this." "Do what?" "Play games. You're upset, I get it, but..." "I'm not upset," I said, looking up at her. "I'm tired. There's a difference." She blinked. That wasn't the response she'd prepared for. You're not angry? Would it help if I was? Silence. She studied me like I was a puzzle with missing pieces. Then she sighed, some tension leaving her shoulders, and sat down across from me. Last night wasn't what it looked like, she started. I smiled. Actually smiled. Jessica, I really don't care what it looked like. You don't? She stopped, confused. Then, why did you come? Pauline asked me to. I came. I saw. Now I'm here, drinking coffee, reading about fiscal policy. That's it. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the calculations happening behind her eyes. This wasn't the script. I was supposed to yell, demand explanations, threaten consequences. Instead, I was talking about fiscal policy. Are you giving me permission? She asked slowly. Permission for what? Don't be dense, Michael. You know what I'm asking. I folded the newspaper and set it aside, looked at her directly. I can't give permission for something that's already happening. That's like asking if you can borrow something you've already stolen. Her face hardened. That's not fair. Fair, I repeated. Interesting word choice. I didn't plan for this to happen, she said, defensive now. Derek and I, it just developed. These things happen sometimes. People grow apart. Do they? Yes, they do, and I think... She took a breath, steadying herself. I think we need to have a serious conversation about our future. Our future, I said. Right. I'm not happy, Michael. I haven't been happy for a long time. I nodded, picking up my coffee. When did it start? What? You and Derek. When did it start? She hesitated, clearly weighing whether honesty or a lie would serve her better. 2 months ago. Maybe 3. It's not... 6, I said. What? I checked your calendar. The first entry with his initials was 6 months ago. February 14th, actually. Valentine's Day. Poetic. Her face went pale, then flushed red. You went through my calendar? You left your email open on my laptop. I just looked at appointments. Nothing invasive. That's a violation of privacy. I almost laughed. Is it? She stood up, grabbing her purse. I can't do this right now. I need to shower and change. We'll talk later when you're ready to have an actual adult conversation. She left the kitchen. A moment later, I heard the shower running. I poured another cup of coffee and went back to my newspaper. The next 2 weeks were strange. Not because Jessica moved out, she didn't. Not because we fought, we didn't. The strangeness came from the routine. We existed in the same space like roommates who'd signed a lease neither could break. She came home late most nights. Sometimes she texted excuses. Sometimes she didn't bother. I cooked my own dinners, did my own laundry, lived my own life. And I watched. People don't realize how much they reveal when they think nobody's paying attention. Jessica left her phone on the counter while she showered. Her laptop stayed open while she took calls in the other room. She scheduled meetings during lunch breaks that lasted 3 hours. I didn't touch her phone, didn't read her messages, didn't install tracking software or hire investigators, or do any of the paranoid spouse cliches. I didn't need to. Derek posted photos on social media. He wasn't careful. Why would he be? I was just the irrelevant husband, too passive to matter. In one photo, I could see Jessica's distinctive silver bracelet on a woman's wrist in the background. In another, a coffee shop receipt on his desk showed 2 orders with Jessica's exact preferences. Oat milk, latte, extra shot, no foam. Small things, stupid things. The kind of mistakes arrogant people make. I started keeping a notebook, not of evidence exactly, but of patterns. Jessica met Derek on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She wore specific perfume on those days. She charged her phone to full before leaving, suggesting she expected to be gone for hours. Derek had a business partner named Raymond Blake. They owned a property development company that had recently secured a major contract with the city. Derek's name appeared in local business journals occasionally, usually bragging about expansion plans or community investment. He was the kind of man who thought success made him untouchable. On a Tuesday evening, 3 weeks after the party, I went to Flanagan's Pub on 5th Street. I didn't go because I liked the place. I went because Derek posted an Instagram story from there 2 hours earlier. I sat at the bar, ordered a beer, and waited. At 9:30, Derek walked in with 2 men in expensive suits. They took a table near the back, ordered drinks, talked business. I could hear fragments, something about permits and zoning variances and timeline compression. Derek was loud, expansive, the kind of person who needed everyone to know he was important. His laugh carried across the room. At one point, he checked his phone and smiled at something, probably a message from Jessica. I finished my beer, paid cash, and left. The next night, I went to the Marina District, walked past the townhouse where the party had happened. Lights were on in the third-floor windows. Derek's car, a black Audi with a vanity plate that read "Home Run," was parked in the driveway. I didn't knock, didn't confront, just walked past, noting the security camera angle, the neighbor's window that faced Derek's entrance, the coffee shop across the street that stayed open until 11. Information. That's all I was gathering. Information. On Thursday, Pauline texted me, "Hey, just checking in. You okay?" I responded, "Fine. Thanks again for the heads up. If you need to talk, I'm here. Actually, can I ask you something?" "Sure. How long have you known about Jessica and Derek?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. A few weeks before the party. I saw them together at a restaurant. Looked pretty obvious what was happening. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Honestly, I didn't know if I should. Some people shoot the messenger, and I wasn't 100% sure until the party. I understand. Did Jessica know you saw them? No. They were in a corner booth. I was with a date near the bar. Jessica had her back to me. What restaurant? Marcello's, the Italian place downtown. Thanks, Pauline. Michael? Are you planning something? I didn't respond. Marcello's was expensive, the kind of place where reservations required planning and the wine list required a second mortgage. I called them the next morning, pretending to be Derek following up on a corporate account. "Oh yes, Mr. Holm," the hostess said brightly. "You have a standing reservation for Thursday evenings, table 12. Just wanted to confirm the time. 8 o'clock, as always. Will it still be a party of 2? Yes, thank you." I hung up. Standing reservation. Thursday evenings. Party of 2. I checked my credit card statements. Jessica used our joint account for most purchases, but I'd noticed charges to Marcello's over the past few months. She'd told me they were client dinners, business expenses. I'd believed her because why wouldn't I? The charges started appearing in March, every Thursday like clockwork, sometimes twice a week. I did the math. 18 dinners at roughly $200 each. That was $3,600 of my money funding her affair. I sat at my desk, staring at the numbers, and felt something cold settle into my chest. Not rage, not sadness. Something harder, something patient. My brother Thomas called that weekend. "Haven't heard from you in a while," he said. "Everything okay?" Thomas was a corporate lawyer, smart, ruthless when he needed to be. We weren't particularly close, different lives, different circles, but we talked every few months. "Busy with work," I said. "Jessica doing all right?" "She's fine." "You sound weird." "Just tired." "Michael." His voice shifted, taking on that lawyer tone. "What's going on?" I could have lied, should have lied. But Thomas had a way of extracting information, and I was tired of pretending everything was normal. "Jessica's having an affair," I said. Silence on the other end. Then, "You're sure?" "Yes." "How long?" 6 months at least. "Have you confronted her?" "Briefly." She basically admitted it. "What are you going to do?" I looked out my apartment window at the street below. People walking dogs, couples holding hands. normal Thursday evening activities. I don't know yet, I said. Michael, listen to me. If you're thinking about divorce, you need to document everything. Get evidence. Protect your assets. Don't do anything emotional or stupid. I'm not emotional. That's what worries me. You sound too calm. I'm tired, Thomas. There's a difference. He sighed. When are you free? Let's grab lunch. Talk this through properly. Maybe next week. Michael, I have to go. Thanks for calling. I hung up before he could argue. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed. Jessica was out naturally, staring at the ceiling, thinking about lunch reservations and Instagram posts, and $3,600 in Italian dinners. And I thought about Derek's Audi, the one with the vanity plate, the one currently parked in his driveway. I got out of bed, got dressed, and drove to the Marina District. Derek's townhouse looked different at 2 in the morning. Quieter. The coffee shop across the street was dark, no pedestrians, just streetlights creating pools of amber on the sidewalk. His Audi sat in the driveway, reflecting the moon. I parked 3 blocks away and walked back. I wore dark clothes, a baseball cap pulled low, hands in my pockets. Just another person out late. Nothing suspicious. When I reached the Audi, I stopped and looked around. No cameras visible from this angle. The neighbors' lights were off. Derek's townhouse had curtains drawn across all windows. I pulled out my keys. For a moment, I just stood there, key in hand, thinking about what I was about to do. This was the line. Once I crossed it, there was no pretending I was just the harmless, passive husband everyone assumed I was. Then I thought about Jessica dancing with Derek, about her dismissive question. What are you doing here? About 6 months of lies funded with my money. I dragged the key along the driver's side door. The sound was horrible, metal on metal, a shriek that seemed impossibly loud in the quiet street. I didn't stop, drew the key from front bumper to back, creating a canyon in the paint that caught the streetlight like a scar. Then I moved to the passenger side and did it again, and again on the hood, and once across the trunk. When I finished, Derek's pristine black Audi looked like it had been attacked by a very angry, very deliberate animal. Deep gouges crisscrossed every panel. The vanity plate seemed to mock the destruction around it. Home run, surrounded by evidence that someone had decided to make a point. I stepped back, breathing hard, adrenaline singing through my veins. Then I walked away. 3 blocks back to my car, drove home, parked, walked upstairs, took a shower, went to bed. The next morning, my phone buzzed at 9. Thomas. Did you scratch Derek Holmes' car last night? I sat up. How do you? Because Derek Holmes is a client of my firm, and he called this morning ranting about vandalism and pressing charges and finding whoever destroyed his car. My stomach dropped. He's your client? For the past 2 years. His company has us on retainer for property contracts. Thomas paused. Michael, please tell me you didn't. How does he know it was me? He doesn't, but he mentioned his girlfriend's husband showed up at a party 3 weeks ago looking angry. He thinks you're the obvious suspect. He mentioned Jessica? Not by name, just girlfriend. I connected the dots. Thomas's voice hardened. Did you scratch his car? Maybe. Maybe. Michael, that's property destruction, criminal mischief. If he files charges, he won't. Why not? Because I'm the wronged husband. He's the guy having an affair with my wife. A jury would be sympathetic. Juries don't decide misdemeanor charges, Michael. A judge does. And judges don't care about your marital drama when you're committing crimes. I rubbed my face. What did you tell him? Nothing. I said I'd look into it. But Michael, seriously, this has to stop. You need to be smart about this. I am being smart. Keying someone's car is not smart. It's petty revenge. Good. Thomas went quiet. When he spoke again, his voice was different, almost curious. What's your endgame here? I don't have one yet. Then figure it out. Fast. Before you do something that actually ruins your life. He hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, thinking about Derek calling Thomas, about how small the world could be sometimes, about how this complicated things. Then my phone buzzed again. Jessica. Derek's car got vandalized last night. Someone scratched it badly. He's furious. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? I stared at her message, the casual accusation, the assumption that I was capable of this, but too pathetic to actually follow through. No idea. That's terrible, though. Right, because it's totally a coincidence. The world is full of coincidences. Michael, if you're trying to what, Jessica? I'm sitting at home, going to work, minding my own business. What Derek does or doesn't do with his car isn't my concern. She didn't respond. I went to work, spent 8 hours reviewing spreadsheets and reconciling accounts. Normal, boring, exactly what an accountant does. At lunch, I drove past Derek's townhouse. The Audi was gone, probably at a body shop, getting estimates, filing insurance claims. Derek would be telling the story to anyone who'd listen. Some lunatic vandalized his car, probably the jealous husband, can you believe it? But he wouldn't file charges. Thomas was right about one thing. Derek didn't want attention on his affair. Bad for business, bad for his image as the upstanding real estate developer. I'd counted on that. That evening, I went to the gym. Not my usual gym, one across town that I'd joined a month ago specifically because it was Derek's gym. I'd seen him tag the location in an Instagram story, checked their schedule, learned his pattern. He arrived at 7:30, wearing expensive workout gear and wireless headphones. He went straight for the weights, doing the kind of routine that was more performance than exercise. Lots of grunting, lots of checking his reflection. I worked out nearby, close enough to be noticeable, far enough to seem accidental. He saw me. Recognition flickered across his face, followed by something darker, anger, confusion. He stopped mid-set and walked over. You, he said, pulling off his headphones. I looked up from my bench press. Me. You scratched my car. Did I? Don't play games. I know it was you. I sat up, grabbing my water bottle. Around us, other people were working out, but I could feel a tension shifting our way. That's a serious accusation. You have proof? His jaw clenched. I don't need proof, I know. Knowing and proving are different things. I stood up. We were roughly the same height, but I had more weight on him. Not muscle, just regular guy weight from sitting at a desk too long. But it was enough to make him hesitate. Stay away from my car, he said, and stay away from Jessica. Jessica? I smiled. You mean my wife? You're... He caught himself, glancing around at the people watching, lowered his voice. This isn't the place. Then where is? What? You want to talk? Let's talk. Where works for you? He stared at me like I'd suggested something insane. I don't want to talk to you. Then stop starting conversations. I picked up my towel. Enjoy your workout, Derek. I walked away. Behind me, I heard him say something, but I kept walking. Out of the weight room, through the lobby, into the parking lot. My hands were shaking. Adrenaline again. But this time it felt different. Not nervous energy. More like electricity. Like I'd touched something live and couldn't let go. When I got home, Jessica was there. Rare occurrence these days. Derek said you confronted him at the gym, she said immediately. He confronted me. That's not what he said. I don't care what he said. I grabbed a glass from the cupboard, filled it with water. Guy accuses me of vandalism, gets in my face at the gym, and I'm the bad guy? You did vandalize his car. Did I? Stop saying that. You know you did. I turned to face her. Jessica, I haven't touched his car, but even if I had, what exactly are you going to do about it? Call the police? Explain how you know Derek so well that you're running to defend his property? She opened her mouth, closed it. I could see her working through the logic, realizing the trap. I want you to leave him alone, she finally said, then stop bringing him into my life. What does that mean? It means if you want to have your affair, fine, but stop expecting me to pretend it's normal. Stop texting me about his car. Stop defending him in my home. Pick a side and commit. Her face flushed. This is my home too. Then act like it. I walked past her toward the bedroom. She didn't follow. That night I lay in bed thinking about Derek's face at the gym, the confusion, the anger, but also, and this was the important part, the uncertainty. He didn't know what I was capable of. Neither did Jessica. They'd both assumed I was harmless, but now there was doubt, and doubt was a seed that could grow into something useful. I fell asleep planning my next move. The photo appeared on Monday morning. Someone had posted it to a local community forum with the caption, "Anyone recognize this car? Parked in handicapped spot outside Marcello's every Thursday night for months." Pretty entitled. The image showed Derek's Audi, pre-vandalism, pristine and black, taking up a handicapped parking space. The license plate was clearly visible. Home run. The comments section exploded within hours. Of course, it's a vanity plate, guy. Someone should report this to the restaurant. My mom has MS and needs those spots. This makes me furious. What kind of person does this regularly? I read through the comments with my morning coffee, watching the rage compound. Someone had tagged Marcello's official account. Someone else found Derek's business page and started leaving one-star reviews. I hadn't posted the photo, hadn't even taken it. But I'd suggested to Pauline 2 weeks ago that someone should document Derek's parking habits. Just mentioned it casually. Let the idea sit. Apparently, she'd followed through. By Tuesday, a local news blog picked up the story. Nothing major, just a small piece about entitled parking in the Marina District. But it included Derek's name and his company. HOLM Properties, real estate developer, under fire for handicapped parking violations. Derek's Instagram went private. His business page disabled comments. Too late. Screenshots lived forever. Jessica came home that evening in a fury. "Did you do this?" she demanded, shoving her phone in my face. I glanced at the screen, the news article. Do what? The parking thing, the photo, the reviews. Jessica, I don't even know what you're talking about. Which was technically true. I hadn't done it. I'd just inspired it. Someone posted a photo of Derek's car in a handicapped spot. Now people are going crazy online. Was he parked in a handicapped spot? She hesitated. That's not the point. Seems like exactly the point. Was he? Sometimes. When the restaurant was busy, but then he deserves whatever he gets. She stared at me. You really are vindictive. I'm an accountant, Jessica. We notice patterns. Derek parks illegally every week, someone finally noticed. That's not vindictive. That's consequences. You're enjoying this? I shrugged. A little. Is that wrong? She left, without answering. The next day, Thomas called again. Derek came to the office this morning, he said. He's paranoid, thinks someone's targeting him. Asked if we could find out who posted the parking photo. Can you? Probably, but I'm not going to. Want to know why? Why? Because he's becoming a liability. This parking thing made some city council members notice his other projects. Turns out he's been cutting corners on permits for months. My firm can't be associated with that. I felt something click into place. Are you dropping him? Not officially, but we're recommending he find alternative counsel. Too much scrutiny right now. Because of a parking photo? Because of everything. The photo was just the catalyst. Once people started looking, they found other issues. It's fascinating, actually. One small public embarrassment triggers a cascade. Fascinating, I agreed. Michael, if you're orchestrating this, I'm not orchestrating anything. I'm just a guy whose wife is having an affair. What Derek does with his business is his problem. Thomas was quiet for a moment. You're scarier than I thought. I'm really not. We hung up. That Thursday evening, I drove to Marcello's, parked across the street and waited. At 8:15, Derek's Audi pulled up. He drove past the handicapped spot, currently occupied by an actual disabled driver, and had to park 2 blocks away. At 8:20, Jessica arrived in her own car. She met Derek outside the restaurant. Even from a distance, I could see the tension in their body language. No kiss, no hand-holding, just a brief conversation before they went inside. I waited 30 minutes, then walked into Marcello's. The hostess looked up. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "I do. Grant, 8:30. I'd called that morning, making a reservation under my own name. Bold, stupid, necessary. She checked her list. "Right this way." She led me through the restaurant. I spotted Derek and Jessica immediately. Table 12, corner booth, exactly where Pauline said they'd been. Their backs were to me, heads close together, deep in conversation. The hostess sat me 3 tables away. Perfect line of sight. "Can I start you with something to drink?" she asked. "Water's fine, thank you." I opened the menu, not really reading it, watching Derek and Jessica in my peripheral vision. They hadn't noticed me yet, too focused on their own conversation. A waiter approached their table. Derek ordered wine. Jessica said something that made him laugh. For a moment, they looked like any normal couple, happy, connected. Then Jessica turned slightly, scanning the restaurant, and saw me. Her face went white. I raised my water glass in a small salute. She said something to Derek. He turned, following her gaze. When he saw me, confusion flickered across his face, followed by anger. I went back to reading my menu. A moment later, Derek was standing at my table. "You need to leave," he said quietly. I looked up. "I have a reservation." "I don't care. You're harassing us." "I'm eating dinner. You don't own the restaurant." "Jessica is uncomfortable." "Then she should leave." His jaw clenched. Around us, other diners were starting to notice. A manager appeared, sensing trouble. "Is there a problem, gentlemen?" the manager asked. "He's harassing my—" Derek stopped. Couldn't finish that sentence without explaining who Jessica was, without admitting the affair. "I'm just here for dinner," I said calmly. "Is that a problem?" The manager looked between us, clearly confused. "Sir," he said to Derek, "if there's no actual issue, forget it." Derek walked back to his table. Jessica was already grabbing her purse. They left 60 seconds later, wine unfinished, meals not ordered. The manager looked baffled. I ordered the chicken marsala and ate slowly, savoring every bite. When I got home, my phone buzzed. Jessica. That was pathetic. I responded, "I know, leaving a perfectly good reservation like that. You're trying to ruin this for me." "No, Jessica, you already ruined it. I'm just making sure everyone else sees what you did. I'm filing for separation." I stared at that message for a long time, then typed, "Okay, that's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say? Fight for you? You made your choice 6 months ago. You've changed. No. I just stopped being invisible." She didn't respond. I poured a drink and sat on the couch, phone in hand, thinking about next steps. Jessica filing for separation complicated things. Divorce meant lawyers, asset division, months of paperwork. But it also meant freedom to act without pretending. My phone buzzed again. "Thomas, Derek just called me at 9 p.m. on a Thursday night. Absolutely losing it. Said you showed up at his restaurant. It's a public restaurant. Michael, what are you doing? Having dinner. This is escalating. Good." Thomas went silent for a moment. Then, "How far are you planning to take this?" I looked around my apartment, at the coffee maker Jessica picked out, the dish towels from our wedding registry, the normal life that had turned out to be a lie. "As far as necessary," I typed. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. He didn't respond. I finished my drink and went to bed. Tomorrow was Friday. Jessica would probably pack a bag, move in with Derek, start the separation process. Derek would probably file a restraining order or at least threaten one. None of it mattered. They'd made the mistake of thinking I'd just accept this quietly, that I'd be the harmless, passive husband, the guy who painted kitchens and bought expensive coffee makers and pretended everything was fine. They were about to learn how wrong they'd been. The email arrived on Saturday morning. Subject line, HOLM Properties, Public Records Request. I opened it, read carefully, then read again. Someone had filed a formal public records request with the city, asking for all permits, inspection reports, and zoning variances associated with HOLM properties over the past 3 years. The request specifically mentioned concerns about irregularities in the approval process and potential violations of building codes. The email was CC'd to Derek, his business partner Raymond Blake, and several city council members. I hadn't sent it, but I knew who had. Thomas called 5 minutes later. "Did you see it?" he asked. "The records request?" "Derek is having a meltdown. This could trigger a formal investigation. If they find violations, and they will, his company could face serious fines, maybe even lose their license." "Who filed it?" "Anonymous. Went through one of those civic transparency organizations. Impossible to trace back to a specific person." He paused. "But we both know who inspired it." "Do we?" "Michael, I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Did you plan all of this from the beginning?" I looked out my window at the street below. Saturday morning, joggers, dog walkers, normal people living normal lives. "No," I said. "I just started pulling threads. The rest unraveled on its own." "That's terrifying." "Is it? Derek deserves some of this. The parking violations, the ethical shortcuts. But you're systematically destroying his life." "He's destroying his own life. I'm just watching." "That's not—" Thomas stopped. "What happens when this is over? When Derek's business collapses and Jessica regrets everything? Then what?" "Then it's over." "And you'll feel better?" "I'll feel done." We hung up. Jessica came by the apartment that afternoon to pack her things. I stayed in the living room while she filled boxes in the bedroom. "I talked to a lawyer," she said, carrying a box past me. "Okay. He said the separation will take a few months. Then we can file for final paperwork. Whatever you need." She stopped, setting the box down. "You're really not going to fight this?" "Fight what? You leaving? You already left months ago, Jessica. This is just making it official." "I didn't—" She took a breath. "I didn't want it to happen like this." "How did you want it to happen?" "I don't know. Less hostile." "I'm not hostile. I'm letting you leave with your stuff. I'm agreeing to the separation. What else do you want from me?" "I want you to act like you care." I looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd married 5 years ago. The woman who danced with Derek while I stood in a doorway full of strangers. "I did care," I said. "That's why this hurts." She flinched. "Good." "The thing is," I continued, "you didn't just break my heart. You broke my trust. You spent 6 months lying to me, spending my money on dinners with him, making me feel crazy for noticing something was wrong. So forgive me if I'm not falling apart. I already did that quietly while you were busy with Derek." "Michael." "Just take your stuff, Jessica. The faster you leave, the faster we can both move on." She grabbed her box and left. Over the next 2 weeks, things accelerated. The city investigation into HOLM properties found multiple violations, improper permits, bribed inspectors, substandard materials on a housing development. The story made headlines. Derek's face appeared on the news, looking cornered and defensive. His business partner, Raymond Blake, issued a public statement distancing himself from Derek's decisions. "Shocked and disappointed" was the phrase he used. Within a week, Raymond filed paperwork to dissolve the partnership. Derek's social media went completely dark. His phone number changed. According to Pauline, who'd heard through her network of yoga instructor friends, Derek had moved out of the Marina District townhouse. Nobody knew where. Jessica stopped responding to my texts. Her lawyer sent paperwork. I signed everything, and then, 3 weeks after the records request, I received a package. No return address. Just a manila envelope with my name typed on a label. Inside, a USB drive. I plugged it into my laptop. One folder, multiple video files. I opened the first one. Security camera footage. Timestamp from 4 months ago. Location: the lobby of an upscale hotel downtown. In the video, Derek and Jessica walked through the frame, his arm around her waist, her laughing at something he'd said. They approached the elevator. He pressed the button. They waited. The elevator arrived. They stepped inside. The implication was obvious. I opened the second video. Same hotel, different date, same pattern. Third video, fourth video. 5 more files, each showing Derek and Jessica arriving at this hotel across several months. Someone had collected these. Someone had access to hotel security systems. Someone wanted me to have proof. I should have felt something. Anger, maybe? Vindication? But I just felt tired. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark apartment, thinking about what to do with this evidence. I could send it to Jessica's employer. She worked in marketing. Reputation mattered. I could post it online. Let the internet do its thing. I could send it to Derek's remaining business contacts. Prove he'd been conducting his affair during work hours. Options. So many options. But as I sat there, I realized something. I didn't need to do anything else. Derek's company was collapsing. His reputation was shattered. His business partner had abandoned him. The investigation had revealed his shortcuts, his bribes, his arrogance. Jessica was about to be single and associated with a man whose name was now synonymous with corruption. Her own reputation would take collateral damage. Friends would whisper. Colleagues would distance themselves. I'd won without throwing another punch. I ejected the USB drive, put it back in the envelope, and filed it away. Evidence, in case I ever needed it. But probably not. On a Tuesday evening, I went to Flanagan's pub. Sat at the bar where I'd sat weeks ago, watching Derek brag to his business partners. Ordered the same beer. The pub was quieter tonight, a different crowd. Nobody recognized me. I sat there drinking slowly, thinking about everything that had happened since Pauline's text. Since I'd walked into that party and watched my wife dance with someone else. Since I'd decided to stop being invisible. Jessica had asked me earlier, what happens when this is over? I hadn't given her a real answer, but now, sitting alone in this pub, I knew. Nothing happened. Life didn't get better or worse. I didn't suddenly become happy or whole or healed. I'd simply extracted the rot from my life and cauterized the wound. Tomorrow, I'd wake up, go to work, review spreadsheets, balance accounts, maybe call Thomas and grab lunch. Maybe not. The normal world would continue, and I'd continue with it. But I'd remember this. Remember the moment I stopped being the harmless husband everyone dismissed. Remember the moment I realized that invisible people aren't powerless. They're just underestimated. And underestimated people can do remarkable damage if they decide to stop being invisible. I finished my beer, left cash on the bar, and walked out into the night.